Controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Yes, good morning. It's welcome to the third hour of Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room at 8 minutes after 8. We're on to having another conversation right here on Spice FM, on KTN Home, and on YouTube and Facebook. Colgate asks you, go to Naivas, buy Colgate, and what you're doing is helping at least 150,000 people get access to clean, safe water to drink, and especially children who need to go to school and stay in school and not go fetching water, and their communities around them. So just walk into Naivas, or you can also purchase Colgate from the Naivas online platform, and that it will work for you. Ndu. Ati, what is happening about mining now?
So there was an event that started yesterday and it runs through until tomorrow. All right. So have you heard of the Kenya Chamber of Mines?
Yeah,
The Kenya Chamber of Mines, together with the Association of Women in Energy and Extractives in Kenya, are having Kenya Mining Week. It's a conference and an exhibition this week. And so what is happening is they're trying to position Kenya as a strategic mining investment destination. All right. So looking at the ways in which this can actually happen through this conference, bringing in stakeholders, bringing in regulators, bringing in value addition propositioners this week and saying, let's have a conversation looking at the different things. I mean, we look at the story this week of gold in Marsabit. We look at gold coming out of Western Kenya and other things. And so this week is talking about these opportunities. 300 delegates in Nairobi having this conversation. You can come to this event and look at the invaluable opportunity that lies in the industry and engage with the stakeholders. So it's the 17th until the 19th.
Very, very good. And CT, so we're still waiting for Thursday for the new episode of Showmax, aren't we?
Yes, but you know...
2 episodes already in the can, and you can watch them today.
They are. But the thing that is outstanding about Faithless, this particular series, is this. You know, there was a time we used to say made in Kenya. So buy Kenya, build Kenya.
Yes.
How people like to mention Hollywood stars. We have our own. And when you watch Faithless, you do not need faith to enjoy it. All you need is your eyes. And you will find that the performance and the acting and the drama that they bring out in this particular movie is worthy of any Hollywood movie that you could think of. And it's local. And these are citizens. These are people you can see on a daily basis. The people you can actually relate to. It gives you an opportunity to be proud of the things that we actually do in this country.
That's indeed true.
Yes.
That's indeed true. Developing our own local talents.
Yes.
In all ways, from the actors to the crew, everybody else.
And appreciating them for the work that they do.
True.
Yes.
Our guest is in the studio. Kuria Kimani is the Member of Parliament for Molo constituency and Chairman of the Finance and Planning Committee of the National Assembly. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Latif.
Good to have you again in the studio.
It's great to be back here. Great to see you, Ndu. Great to see you, CT.
Good to see you.
Been a very busy last few weeks, last few months. The last time we were here, we were debating the finance bill. And it's now an act, although unfortunately we suffered a small setback that I am confident will soon be a thing of the past about the conservatory orders that have been granted by the court after an application by our good friend Senator Okiya Mutata.
Yeah.
You know, I was joking with him the other day, and I think I was telling him he should withdraw the salary. He should refund the salaries he is paid as a senator, because he's more of an activist in the courtroom than he is a senator and a lawmaker of this Republic of Kenya. I think he is more fitted to work within the judiciary and not as a senator.
And how did you respond to that joke?
He laughed it off, because he knows what I meant. Because members of parliament have a very privileged position of sitting where you and Du and City cannot, where we make laws of the republic, and so I think it's very important that every legislator use that platform to make the laws and to make their contribution, and not abscond your duty and run to the courts or run to the streets to picket. And you're a member of parliament, and when the decision was being made, when the votes were being taken, you were either conveniently out of the country or conveniently out of the chambers, or not even bother to understand the process that was happening. So it's a really sad.
Or you were a senator and you didn't have an opportunity to debate or vote on the said bill.
Yes, but again, if you are a senator worth your salt, you should know that in the history of Parliament, a finance bill has never been debated at the Senate. Because for a bill to be debated or to go to the Senate, it has to have clauses that affect county governments. And for this Finance Act, there was absolutely nothing that would have made it be debated at the Senate. And there is precedence, because since the promulgation of the new constitution, and since we started having the finance bill, it has never had to go to the Senate.
Even when the county government is an employer.
Who collects revenues.
If you look at it,
some of the measures there compel it, a county government, as an employer. Article 119 of the Constitution gives powers to the National Assembly to legislate on all matters taxes. And if you use that logic, then the Income Tax Act, that deducts payee, then the county governments pay payee. Yeah.
The county governments deduct VAT. So do all the laws relating to VAT and income tax go to the Senate? Because county governments are agents of collecting payee and income tax?
But
the answer is absolutely not. And
consider for a moment, Mheshimiwa, if your honorable colleague had not raised this issue, this very worthwhile discussion we're having here would not take place, because every time there's something that goes against the normal grain, what we then have is a robust conversation on it, and we get to be informed. Like the very things you're saying here. See, you are quoting statutes. You are explaining to us where this whole conversation is anchored. In the absence of that difference, you would not be explaining it.
I don't think so, City, because if you remember the last, long before this bill became really this publicized, I remember I was in this show and we started breaking what the finance bill is, what it needs to do. I think there has been a robust conversation, and I think we have not had a piece of legislation that has been debated nationally as widely as the finance
Is that
act.
not a good thing?
I'm not complaining, it's a good thing. We are much more informed. It is just that what is sad is people that have the facts keep misrepresenting them deliberately. And for example, when His Excellency the President ascended the finance bill into law, he signed two other bills. He signed the Division of Revenue Bill, it's now Division of Revenue Act, and he signed the Appropriations Bill, which is now the Appropriations Act. Interestingly, we are conveniently not talking about those two other pieces of law, that the three of them are like conjoined twins. The Division of Revenue Act is the one that defines or puts says what the sharing formula is, the revenue sharing formula is between the national government and the county government.
Yep.
The Appropriations Act is now the act that put money into programs, whether it is road, whether it is health, whether it is education, whether it's agriculture. It is actually the one that says there is a line here called roads that specifies it's road A, B, C, D. There is these water programs A, B, C, D. And all of them have a bearing to the Finance Act. Because the money that you're going to share between national government and county government in the Division of Revenue Act, the amount of money we're going to spend in programs, whether it is roads, health, that has both been approved by both by the Appropriations Act is a bill of the National Assembly. So it has been brought to the National Assembly. The Division of Revenue Bill Now Act is a joint a bill that has been passed by both the National Assembly and the Senate. So interestingly, there is no contestation about we are spending this money.
Actually,
but where it is coming from is
actually
on
that is
where
not
the
a-
issue is.
That's where the issue is, Mheshimiwa, because remember, yes, it went through, but what it required was a majority. It doesn't mean that everybody assented to it. There are people who probably had a difference of opinion. And that difference of opinion is what we are now seeing playing out in the public gallery.
Interestingly, CT, is that the hypocrisy
the word,
of
yes.
the hypocrisy of we participated in this budget. It's like at home. You agree that we are going to live in an apartment where we are going to pay 30,000 shillings. And you're going to take our kids to school X, that are going to pay X amount of money. And these are going to be the meals to draw up a budget at home of 100,000 shillings. And you both agree. Okay? Then we say, fine, where are we going to get this 100,000 shillings? Then we say, now you have to give in 2 more hours at work. Because we need additional revenue for us to support this family budget. We agree, you as a kids, you're not going to when you come up from school, you have to help at the shop because now we need this additional revenue. And then we all agree, because remember, we are financing 100,000 shillings budget every month. But once we agree all that, do you say, no, I don't think I want to put in 2 more hours at work. And yet you participated in agreeing that we move to this apartment that we're paying X, and taking the kids to this school that we're paying X school fees.
I hear what you're saying, but if we look at what really is the situation in Kenya, the people that are being asked to put in a little bit of extra were not at this table to have this conversation, and they didn't say, yes, we will give you 2 of our hours after school to contribute to this conversation. And I think that's where it all came from. That you didn't consult the people that you're asking for 2 extra hours. You kind of put their 2 extra hours down on the budget. And then when that is going through is when you come and tell them, oh, by the way, folks, you're giving 2 hours of your time afterwards. I think that's where the problem was, otherwise known as the grander term of public participation.
I want to look at it a little differently. And let's first of all handle the legislatures that were part of the process. There are 2 ways. So you're part of the process that approves budget X, that has these roads in your constituency, that has these houses are being built in your constituency, that has all these programs that you sit in a departmental committee that you approved. Okay? Then once you approve these expenditures, and I'm talking about, first of all, leaders, the leadership, then you say, fine, this is how then this is going to be financed. But then once now you get to the financing part, that's where now you say, let us go to the streets. How absurd can that get? I wouldn't understand on the issue of now the public, okay? Because you're saying for sure that we are going to have the employees and the employers contribute 1.5% and 1.5%. There are all these measures that are put in. So I would really understand if it is the one making the contribution that was not, even if there was public participation, was not necessarily voting, was not necessarily at the decision-making table. I would understand that. But now, explain to me how you who was part of the entire process, budget making process.
You now
I
get
could,
out of
and I
parliament
could
and go
pull
and complain.
reports, because
Let me
the
ask you,
budget making
Mheshimiwa.
process, if I finish this point, Latif,
Yeah.
the budget making process is done by departmental committees of the National Assembly.
Yes.
So the Departmental Committee of Agriculture approved the budget on agriculture. The Committee on Health, the Committee on the Budget Committee actually, which is the largest committee, compromising and all these committees compromise members from both Kenya Kwanza and from the opposition.
Absolutely.
I can tell you for a fact they all signed the adoption report of the budget of those particular committees.
Don't be fooled.
There was no objection in any of the committee reports.
There was no any objection,
terms of expenditures.
Yes, including the finance, and again,
So,
including the finance committee.
Let's come to the finance committee.
Even
How many
including
members are in your committee in
15.
total? How many of those 15 members are in the Azimio coalition or the minority?
7.
So 7 of your members are minority members.
Yes.
How many voted no to
None.
the measures?
None.
How many voted yes?
Unanimous. It was all the 15 members. So including the 7 members from Azimio actually voted yes to the finance report.
So all the members of the Azimio coalition in your finance
Yes.
committee voted yes,
Yes.
to the finance committee's report.
Yes.
Which is what ended up with just
And the
minor
flow.
amendments becoming the Finance Act.
Yes. So the finance. So we got the finance bill. Okay. We went through public participation.
Yeah.
We listened to thousands of stakeholders. We came up with amendments. We amended, I think it is, if I remember correctly, we amended 87 clauses in the bill. The amended finance bill, which was ascended to by the president, was approved by both sides of the political divide at the Finance and National Planning Committee.
And it was not just unanimous, everybody.
They signed the adoption report. They got sitting allowances for.
They all signed.
They all signed for
Who are the
report.
members of the minority in your committee?
It's
public.
That is public.
You want me to look out for-
I do not want
I can
to.
get the names, or you can give me the names.
Let
It's
us
gonna
not
take a
go
while.
to. Let us not go to the
The
names.
chairman is Kuria Kimani. Who's the vice chairman?
The membership. If you just check on our website, you'll find the membership.
Do you know why
I
we-
wouldn't go to the car. I don't
It's
want
not
the
about
discussion.
character.
No.
I do not want to go to
It's
that
not about
conversation.
character, it's about
but I
report.
want us to see this view and this perspective. Let's even talk about the Finance and National Planning Committee, which I assure you was approved unanimously. Let's talk about
The budget.
the
I mean.
approvals. We talk about the budget. Let's talk about the approvals of the clauses at the floor of the House.
Okay.
Okay, because what our Azimio brothers and sisters are telling us that we must suspend, okay, the Finance Act in totality. The voting that was done on the clauses, what are the clauses that they asked for division? Asking for division is they opposed. And then they felt that they didn't have the numbers, and then they stood at the first division. What now we had now to vote yes or no individually. Were only 3 clauses
Out of?
out of 87 different clauses.
So out of the 87 clauses, the contentious ones were 3.
Were 3. They actually they asked for division on deletion of, I think it's clause 29. That is taking VAT on fuel from 8% to 16%.
That one.
They asked for division on the clause that was reducing the housing levy from 3% to 1.5% employer and 1.5% employee. They asked for division for the amendment of the Income Tax Act that was introducing 2 new tax bands for because before the Finance Act of 2022. Those earning more than 500,000 shillings were the only ones who were paying 30%. There was no any other band. So the committee amended that and introduced 2 more bands between 500,000 shillings and 800,000 shillings at 32.5%. And anyone earning more than 800,000 shillings, they pay 35%.
Yeah.
So those are the only clauses that members from Azimio actually wrote to the Speaker, bringing amendments
Yeah.
and asking for a division only those 3.
Okay.
Out of 87 clauses, what are these other 87 clauses about? One, for the very first time, we took maize flour, wheat flour, cassava flour from the from tax exempt status to zero rating status. So it means that now maize flour, cassava flour, and wheat flour is zero rated, which means you're removing taxes on maize flour and wheat flour. How is that bad? We have reduced excess duty on internet, on internet expenses, on telephone expenses from, I think it's 15% to 10%. I'll confirm the percentage, but at least it is a reduction. We are reducing rental income tax from 10% to 7.5%. We have introduced zero rating of local manufacturing of fertilizer, which means that the fertilizer that we're now availing to farmers and next season is going to be much cheaper because we have reduced taxes on manufacturing of fertilizer. We have introduced what's called insurance relief for post-medical insurance contribution. We have realized that when people when people retire, and throughout your working life, you had this medical cover that usually a contribution of either employee or employer or just a contribution of employer. Once you go on retirement, most people, and so at retirement, you are at advanced age, that's when you're more prone to diseases. So they're not able to afford medical insurance. So we have introduced a tax and insurance relief for post-retirement medical insurance.
Okay.
How is that wrong? Let me go on.
Let me pause you.
On UHC, on UHC.
Let me pause you there because we'll not go into the other 83. Yeah, those 3. Do you agree that even in the public, even when you engage in the public, that those 3 were the most contentious issues? From the feedback that you got from the public, those 3 issues: the housing fund, which now is a housing tax, VAT on fuel, and the third one is
income tax.
Yeah, the income tax.
Okay, fine. Of course,
from the feedback that you got in your public participation,
the income tax, of course, nobody ordinarily wants to pay more. I, for example, my pay slip for June is worse than my disposable income for the month of July, is much less than my disposable income or my take home in the month of June. That is a fact. Am I happy about it? The answer is no. I'm not ordinarily happy that I am getting to pay more taxes. McHugh even removal of the capping for housing, because remember, the bill had a cap of a maximum of 2,000 shillings. Now, with the removal of the cap, I'm going to pay more because I would have paid up to 2,000. Now I think my housing levy deduction for this month will be around 15,000 shillings. But let's look at it. It's not just about how that affects me as Kuriak, as an individual. It's about, was it fair?
My question is
that, yes, I'm getting.
Do you agree or don't you agree that those 3,
I'm getting
even with the public participation, emerged as the thorny issues?
I agree.
It's not the merits or demerits of it. It's just whether these are thorny issues or not.
The 3 most debated, the 3 most contentious, the 3 most discussed clauses in the whole. In fact, I was saying we reduced the housing, the finance bill to a housing bill.
Yeah.
Because everyone was talking about housing. Even those that I was at a political. I was at an event at the Catholic Church in Busia the other Sunday, and everyone was talking about housing levy. And I'm like, out of the population in that church, the people that are actually contributing to the housing levy were the only ones who were opposing the members of parliament. Because this rural constituency, this rural local church, none of them is a salaried employee.
Okay.
So it's actually true. And that is why you'll find this is the most debated, because the people that have the platform like this to discuss it are the ones who are paying more.
Okay.
And of course, they don't want to pay more. Ordinarily, they wouldn't want to pay more. And you find that because even now the people speaking about it in the village, you have farmers in the village telling me about someone telling me, I was in a village in Canada telling me, this your finance bill has too many taxes, iyo mambo ya manyumba. And I'm asking them, okay, which one of you is going to pay? And then there was nobody. Then like, kwani sisi wote tunakatwa mambo ya manyumba na tuko na manyumba huku ushago? I'm like, no, it is not you who are going to pay. It is those that are salary. And that is why, unfortunately, Do and Latif and City and myself, seated here, all of us are going to get a cut in our July salary. And unfortunately, we are the only ones who have this platform of debating it. That's why when I tell you about fertilizer, when I tell you what you've done about local manufacturing of medicine, when I tell you about those internet rates, those the excess duty on transfer of mobile money, when you talk about, imagine that we have, for some reason, we have always had, I think it's a 35% excise duty on electric motorcycles. And ordinarily, excise duty in the strict definition of excise duty is supposed to be a sin tax. So, what was sinful in buying an electric motorcycle? This act removes excise duty on electronic motorcycles. But of course, because the sector that will be affected by the removal of this tax will not be able to come and have a robust conversation in English and quoting statutes, then nobody's talking about it.
But they did. Let's take a break, though. 26 minutes to 9. Kuria Kimani, MP for Molo constituency and chairman of the Finance and Planning Committee of the National Assembly, is our guest this morning. We will move the conversation after the break into, yes, the Azimio legislators have rallied together and they've called for maandamano because of this. We also still have a conversation around the Finance Act and whether it should be implemented and what this government is doing. So we want to hear what your meeting with the president on Saturday discussed.
Okay.
What the strategy is. Okay. And as we do this, Molo has, trees and all, where we're starting to cut trees, but that's not the issue. Molo has trees and therefore has rivers and has water. Okay. Now, there are children in some parts of the country who don't have access to free drinking water. And Colgate is asking you and I to help just by going into Naivas and buying Colgate. And when you buy Colgate, part of the money goes into sinking one of 30 water wells that will benefit at least 150,000 lives. All you need to do is buy Colgate.
I am sure, Latif, I have never used a different...
That's all you know, right?
That's all I know. It's Colgate all the way.
Very good. So this time, go to Naivas, buy Colgate, and we'll be sorted.
Thank you.
Sawa. Also, today and yesterday and tomorrow and the day after, into 20th, you can walk into KICC because the Employment and Labor Relations Court is having its annual symposium where they're engaging on what they've done in the last 10 years since they were established into a superior court and what they've done in terms of just sorting out the labor disputes that we have in the country. Some of them, of course, I'm sure, some of your constituents are big on this. And so they're having their annual symposium and they're saying, please come, let's engage and also see and understand how we work. That's the Employment and Labor Relations Court Symposium, which will also be live on KTN News later this morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Brought to you by Colgate. As we feed the brains of our little ones in school, the Standard newspaper takes pride in knowing that we are making a mark in the growth of their minds through the newspapers and education program that steers them in the right direction. And we are proud of it.
My experience with NIA, I can say that I have really benefited from that newspaper. The newspaper can help me with vocabulary, and imaginative and creative writing. It helps in grammar and it's helpful, especially in English. It helps, like when you're writing, you don't write wrong spelling of words and wrong grammar, because grammar in English is very important.
To adopt and sponsor a school class on the NIE program, it will only cost 14,400 shillings per term or 43,200 shillings per year. For more information, please contact Ronnie Ouma on 0720-809-823 or rouma@standardmedia.co.ke. Newspapers in education. Readers are leaders.
Mimi mtoto nilikuwa namweka ndani vizuri sana, mtoto alikuwa akosi kula dagaa.
I think our bond was so nice. I liked it. Mpaka tukafanana hata nika realize that's not what I want. That guy was not actually who I wanted to be with.
Nimejisikia vibaya sana.
Namwambia ni pride, anambia hizo ni personality gani?
Ati kwa nini nilikuacha? One, boring.
Hiyo ni reason gani sasa ya kuacha mtu?
Mimi si hata sioni importance za kukuambia the baby daddy honestly.
Acha tuachania.
Ningekumwagia hii chai saa hata kama mimi ni ex wako singekea. Jinyonge nikupe kamba.
Aende basi naende apotelee mbali.
At what point did you sit and, say to yourself, yeah, that was the right decision, I'm on the right path?
Lo and behold, when I then undertook my very first posting, it was to South Africa I went. And so it changed my life because I'd never been overseas before. Never been on a plane. Immediately I was thrown into a world in which I realized all of my learning about being overseas or what the world is like had been formed through books. And the reality of then living in another country made me realize quickly how naive I'd been about how much I knew.
Okay.
Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Brought to you by Colgate.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
News as we continue our conversation with the Honorable Member of Parliament for Molo, Kuria Kimani. Kuria, about housing. There is the platform called Bomayangu, right? Mm-hmm. And Bomayangu is now the government affordable housing platform, which allows people then to be able to select a house and to own a house. And all they say is to register for Bomayangu is dial *832#, and then you walk through the process. City did that yesterday, went through the process, and is already started to say the next thing that City is supposed to do is identify from the projects that are listed, where would you like to own your home? Then after that, when you get to 12.5% of the property of the house, then you qualify to start earning. It's a fully automated platform. That means that for four of us, we are on Bomayangu, we've selected in the same project, algorithm will select the person who gets the house, if it's only one house available. Okay, if it's 4 houses available, then algorithm of course gives us 4 the houses.
Amazing. I can see now I have more supporters of the Finance Act now that we are all users of Bomayangu. And that just to give perspective, what this has done. I was speaking with a friend yesterday. She was able to get a mortgage for an apartment in Kileleshwa along Othaya Road. And a 2-bedroom is now going, I think, for 5.76 million shillings. And I remember when I got my mortgage for last Parliament, and I actually thought of getting an apartment along that place. they were going for 13, 14, 15 million shillings. So the ripple effect of the provision of the affordable housing units by government has actually reduced the cost of apartments by the private sector players, because like the Parklands project or the Ngara, the Park Road project, that are apartments on Bomayango going for 2.5 million, 3.5 million shillings. So what has done is that it has significantly reduced the cost of other private house providers that are located in the same area.
How has it done that exactly?
If someone is selling a house there at 2.5 million, and you build apartments to sell 2 blocks away, and you sell them at 10 million shillings, nobody's going to buy. Because even when that is a market price, they are going to say there, but that is 2.5.
But Mheshimiwa Kimani, you know very well that for that to happen that drastically, from 13 million shillings to 5 million shillings along Kileleshwa, you need to have very many other affordable housing units that are competing with that market. Now, to say that it is because of affordable housing that the prices along Othaya Road have dropped, I think that is stretching it a bit. It could be other reasons.
One of them,
maybe the size of the house, whatever other reasons. But it's because there is a house in Park Road.
You know what is happening. For a very long time, most Kenyans gave up a dream of owning a house in the city. That is a fact, because the prices were crazy, and the only ones.
The prices are still crazy.
But actually, the prices have gone down. If you even check all the surveys that.
But why
done by even Knight and Frank. Knight Frank is actually shows that I think that's my theory. That one of the reasons is I have. Let me give you an example. One of my staff, called Masharia, he works for my Elbagon office, was telling me how they want to relocate to Nairobi with his wife, and he wanted to buy an apartment, and he went to that Bomayango and then said, now I saw something, I think for 2 million, and I think I can gradually pay and get that house for 2 million shillings. Then when he was searching for it, he saw others, not necessarily in Bomayango, that actually cost that much. Ordinarily, this young man would have never thought that he could afford a house in Nairobi, and that is a fact. When I started my employment, when I got married, and later got married a few years later, and thought of getting a roof over the head for my family, I remember the cheapest apartment we could get in the market, until now we decided to buy land and build, was at the river for 7 million. And that was a 2-bedroom apartment. And that is a fact. And this is 2014. Now, tell me how then we have the same. If you could only buy an apartment at the river at 7 million shillings, and now you can buy a 3-bedroom apartment at the same 7 million shillings at Lavington or Kileleshwa. It means it's a conversation we've had about. Yes, one of them. That's my theory.
We could say that in your opinion, one of the reasons.
Yes, in my opinion, yes.
The affordable housing.
In my opinion.
Now, Mheshimiwa,
in my considered opinion.
On Saturday, you Kenya Kwanza legislators had a meeting at State House with your party leader, and you were discussing many things. Among the things that we hear you discussed was this week's demonstrations. What's the strategy?
First of all, that is not only the conversation that we had. We also talked about, we always do, at the beginning of every session of Parliament, we have a parliamentary group meeting to discuss the legislative agenda, the government legislative agenda for the following session. And we have consistently done this. And now, before the budget, before the estimates and the finance act, before now the last session, we were called for a PG. The president and members of the executive explained, this is what we need your help on. Before then, during the appointment of cabinet secretaries and appointment of principal secretaries, we had a conversation that go do vetting. I'm hoping that that you can pass them, but in the event that someone doesn't meet the threshold, feel free to exercise your professional discretion on failing them. And so the Saturday's parliamentary group meeting for Kenya Kwanza is not any different from what we've always held before the start of any session. And yeah, we had the agenda of the legislative proposals. Now we had a better explanation of of the value chains in the budget. Talking about the aggregation centers, the focus on agriculture, the focus on UHC, the focus on the difference in the approach on universal healthcare, because we have the reason why UHC did not succeed the 2 times it had been launched before by the last regime was one, because we were more curative than we were preventive, and this has really overstretched especially our health facilities.
So the focus now is different.
The focus now is different. We're talking about preventive.
If you'll allow me.
Let me just finish that point, then I get to what you really want to hear.
Let's come into Mandamano.
Yes. So we are now focusing on having community health workers, 100,000 community health workers. So we have our households, especially in the rural villages, being divided into small units and being assigned a health worker. So going to come and measure your blood pressure and all that stuff, so that we reduce the numbers that need to go physically to a health facility. But of course, to what is really is a greater interest is what was our conversation about Mano. We agree that we had a very long conversation. And all I think we agree, yes, the right to picketing and demonstration is a right provided for in the Constitution. But on the same note, the protection of life and property is also a right provided for in the Constitution. So in as much as you have the right to picket and to demonstrate, I also have a right to come to work. I have a right to my property. So your exercise of your right to picket, demonstrate, should not take away my right to own property, my right to go to work, my right to go to school, my right to go on with my normal business.
That's all agreed. That's all in the law.
And so how do we, again, now make sure that we do not have some people exercising that right at the expense of the others? Because we want to make sure that many people can't afford 3 days off in a week, because most of our people rely on informal employment. So they leave in the morning, with just bus fare to work. And some actually walk to work because they don't have that bus fare.
So what did you agree? Tomorrow is Wednesday.
Come picket, but do not disturb take away the right of anyone else who has a right to go to work.
Okay.
It's clear that the sides are polarized. It's obvious that we also have folks who are talking in terms of politics very clearly. Is there an understanding from, it's your side because it's your side, is there an understanding from your side as to why the demonstrations are taking place?
Now, is there an understanding to why they're taking place? No.
You don't understand what the demonstrations are about?
Let me ask you, so how does destroying expressway affect the price of maize flour?
Okay.
But that's a different conversation altogether, really.
Yeah, the question for me, and I'll tell you why I'm asking this question in a minute, but is there an understanding from your side why the demonstrations are taking place?
There is an understanding that there is a high cost of living.
Okay.
There is understanding that there is a high rate of unemployment.
Yes.
That is a fact.
Yes.
What we disagree with is how do we handle it.
Okay.
That is our point of departure. We agree that there are very many Kenyans who are not able to put
food on the table.
That is indeed a fact.
Yes.
There's no, and nobody has, and His Excellency the President, none of our leaders, including myself, is denying that, because I am very close with my constituents, and I get calls, all the time. In fact, there's someone calling me now, and most importantly, they could be telling me, I'm not able to meet my rent, Or yesterday, one of the students I sponsor at Maseno University, went back to his hostel and everything had been stolen. He has not. He literally had on the clothes he had yesterday. So life is, and perhaps the reason why somebody went and stole is because, of course, it's criminal, but it's also because maybe he didn't have much. So the truth is, we have got many Kenyans that are not able to put food on the table. That's a fact. However, is a solution to that destroying the highways? Is a solution to that making sure that anyone else who would have gone to work and got something to eat in the evening doesn't get to work?
I'm going to prefer something that could look like an opinion, but I'm almost sure that very many people who hear me will understand and agree with what I'm saying. The people who are feeling the thing that you've just described and the people who would come out to demonstrate are not the ones who destroyed the expressway. Are not.
So who are the ones who destroy the expressway?
The people who go home every day, who are frustrated to the point whereby they are not sure where next meal will come from, are not the ones who are ripping apart the expressway. And I think that if you sought, you would know that what I'm saying is true. And that Kenyans who are caught in the balance of this politics that we're seeing from two sides, and that the Kenyans who need everybody to have an honest conversation about what is actually going on, and not these barbs that we've been seeing being thrown over the last few days. And so my question is, when will the honest conversation be had about truly what can be done, instead of the smoke screens that we are seeing coming from both sides? Not just you because you're in the room, but from both sides. For whom Kenyans, you in the beginning of this conversation, you talked about representation for people. The Kenyans who are hoping that representation is actually carried out are looking up to both sides to say, can we have a conversation instead of this, the nonsense of politics that we've been seeing flying around. They are not the ones who are removing the railway or the expressway or whatever we want to call it. They are the ones who are looking up to both sides to say, let us be honest in our action. So when is that going to happen?
Thank you. And that is powerful. That is really, really powerful. And I can't agree with you more. And I'll start with those that are going to destroy what you've built. That is what we agreed must be dealt with. That if you think that you, like that guy climbing up on, taking off the camera, removing the toilet from those offices, burning a road, stoning a bus, burning a bus, those will be dealt with. Coming to the open conversation.
Let me them instead of preventing this entire.
We have told them stop destroying.
No, that's not preventing.
And I will repeat it.
So what do we want us to do? To let them rip our highways?
At the expense of repetition. The people who destroyed this 4 kilometers of expressway are not the people who are suffering today.
Agreed.
Let us get off of that.
That's
point,
right.
Please.
That's why I was going to
asked that question. I would like to know when an open conversation will be had.
Yes, I was going to part 2 of how we are going to take care of those people that do not have a meal on their table. And before we get there, have an open national conversation. We said, where are these policy decisions made? And we agreed as a country that the policy decisions that are going to change our country and put food on those people's table is not done at newsrooms, is not done at conferences. It is done at the houses or the place where decisions are made, where a piece of law, like that act, for example, becomes law the following day when it's signed by the president. And that is why there was an agreement to have a bipartisan approach where we say, get leaders from this side, get leaders from this side. Because the worry of Azimio was, even if we propose these changes, the Kenya Kwanza team, because they have the numbers, may not pass them. A legitimate concern But because we wanted, as a president would say, a good idea to give birth to a better idea, and a better idea to give birth to the best ideas, right? Bring your leaders here. Let us bring ours here. Go and have a draft of what you want us to do. The first thing Azimio did was say, fine, we don't trust these people. Why? There is one Honorable Canaan who is one of our own, because Jubilee is an Azimio, who is one of the people that you fronted on your side to be part of this conversation. That's fine. I thought it would be to advantage because you have one of our own. But if Honorable Canaan is a problem, fine. We are going to remove him and replace him. So even after doing that, even after our administration giving Azimio a chance to have a national conversation that would lead to policy decisions that would address in a bipartisan way all the concerns that you are raising, you're very elaborately raised. They said no, they want to go back to the streets.
So much
and
more.
you and I know
those talks have collapsed. All right, from where you sit as a national leader, what's the best way forward? How do we address the issues that are being raised?
The people from Azimio should stop being selfish, should stop politicking, because they're going to have a chance to do all the politics they can in a few years, and 5 years, and very fast. You know, I served in the 12th Parliament, and no sooner was I elected in 2017 than the next election really are coming. So these 5 years will end very quickly, and they will have a chance to political decay. For now, let us have a national conversation where decisions are made, because no matter how many days you stop hardworking Kenyans from going to work, no matter how many sufurias you put on your head, for a fact, that cannot bring down the cost of living.
So call of Maandamano.
Call of Maandamano.
And
whatever way you propose, let us have a conversation within the principles of the Constitution, because we have also laws of this land. Because what these people want...
Maandamano also is within the principles of Constitution.
Yeah, but what as Ndo rightfully put, and all of you rightfully put, when you open that option of Maandamano, what we are having is a ripple effect of now all these other criminals coming out of the road to destroy property.
Taking over.
And taking over.
Always a pleasure having you.
It's always a robust conversation. I really like coming here.
You've done a lot of filibustering today, but okay. Next time. It's 9 a.m. Time for the news.
Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Brought to you by Colgate.